Hey, welcome to Bible 365. I'm your host, Kathy Carter, and I am bringing you Second Corinthians 5 today. So, I'm going to be talking about how God has reconciled us to himself through Christ, so kind of brought us in harmony, and then how we are representing him in our lives. So, if you're interested, I want you to stick with me, and I'll see you in just a minute. Hey, welcome to Bible 365. I'm your host, Kathy Carter, and this channel is here to kind of merge Bible living with Bible literacy. So, we are going to be using the New Testament this year in order to understand what it's like to live as a follower of Christ. I have a link below in the description that I have a download that will bring you to a chronological Bible reading of the New Testament. So, what I want you to do is read every day and join me and hopefully some friends as we talk about what it means to live as a kingdom builder. Let's get started. Hey, and welcome back. We're in Second Corinthians, and this is chapter 5 today. So if you've not been here before, go back to First Corinthians, 2 Corinthians 1. And I keep having trouble saying this letter. But for now, let's go into Second Corinthians chapter 5. So our background is that Paul is the author. He's with Timothy. He's one of the apostles, and they're traveling, and they've written this letter. And here's what it seems like. So here is like the first few chapters. It seems like really bad stuff is going on with Paul and Timothy. And word has gotten back to these churches because they're in Greece, and Paul and Timothy are kind of traveling all over. And word has gotten back, and he's afraid that what's going to happen is it's going to bring them down. And so he's assuring them in this letter. And I want to say this is in some ways like a love letter. Like he's assuring them that all is well. This is how it's supposed to be. And God is really, really good. God is working in this, and he is working abundantly. And that's, I think, for all of us to believe. Like, I think that's exactly what God wants us to understand. Some people are, you're going to look out and they're going to believe and they're going to love the Lord. And like Abraham, for whatever reason, they're going to be really blessed. They're going to have a lot of financial blessings. Some people are going to go through a lot of sufferings. Now, one of the things that I want to note is I don't think he's talking about the normal everyday sufferings, like people getting sick, or maybe somebody getting into an accident, or somebody losing their job. I actually don't think that that's the suffering that he's speaking of. Now, those are sufferings that are going to come in the world. Those are trials and tribulations. But it seems like what Paul's talking about is that he is suffering for spreading the word of the Lord. So he's suffering for the gospel. So some of the things that we've seen in the book of Acts, and some other things that we're going to see in the book of Acts as the future progresses, is a lot of crazy stuff is happening to him as he's doing his missions trip, so to speak. And I'm just using those terms because that's kind of the stuff we're comfortable with. And as he's doing all this, he is shipwrecked, and he goes to jail a few times, and people are chasing him out of town. There's so many things that are happening to him. And so he wants them to know. And it says here, like today in this letter, or the other day in this letter, it said essentially he was suffering unto death. And he wanted them to know that his suffering and Timothy's suffering was for their good. It's to let them know that suffering when presenting the gospel is very normal, because there are people who are going to love the aroma of Jesus, and there are people that are going to despise the aroma of Jesus. And when they despise the aroma of Jesus, it could end really badly. So if you hear about missions, and I don't know if there are some excellent biographies out there of people who have done mission trips, and you have seen some remarkable things, but there have also been some awful things. Like I know there was a famous one where people went down into South America, and they went into like the jungle, and they lost their lives. But the word of the Lord spread. And so when other people came in to do a mission trip there, they had noticed that the word of the Lord had spread. And so there were believers. And so awful things had happened, but beauty came out of those ashes. And so this is what he's trying to share with them. And so he's talking, about all different things, like the veil has been lifted. And so we get to see the things. And these are the things, right? Like you are a minister and you want to share these things. So once the veil has been lifted from you, then you're going to share the word with other people, just like they're sharing the word with other people. Okay. So at the end of the chapter yesterday, we finished with, for the things which are seen are temporary, but the things which are not seen are eternal. And so it's like, you need to look towards eternal things. You cannot look to things of the world. If your whole focus is what's going to happen to me now, you are going to lose heart. And I'm not saying like Paul's saying this. I'm saying this, although Paul is saying this as well. So if you only focus on the like name it and claim it kind of things, you're in a lot of trouble, because that's just not the reality for people who love Jesus. Now, I'm not going to say that means every Christian needs to be poor. That would be ridiculous, and that's not the truth. But there will be suffering when you spread that. And so spread the word of the Lord. So you need to know that, like, it's not about what we're getting here. It's not about like how many people I had at my church and how much money my church made. It's really about, is the word of the Lord true where you are? And that might be in a group of 2 people. It might be in a group of 600, but it might only be 2. And whatever you are, and I have some of this dissatisfaction, but so let me finish this. Whatever you are, the Lord wants you to be satisfied with what he has given you, and not saying, I need more. Because when I need more, I'm going to bend to get more. I'm going to be very, very flexible because I want more. I want more people. I want a better time slot. I want to speak more. I want my show. I want 1 million views. I want hits. I want financial freedom because I'm doing right. Like I. And when that's our primary focus, even if that's our secondary focus, that completely takes away from the Lord, because you are now focused on what's seen and you are not focused on what's unseen. And what is unseen, the eternal, is what's important. So it says, because if we, here we go. So going into 5:1, for we know that if our earthly house, this tent, is destroyed, we have a building from from God, a house not made with hands, eternal in the heavens. So let's be literal. If our house is destroyed and we lose everything, we know that there is an eternal home of glory for us to live in. So there is a place that is better than where we are now, much better. We're so worried about now. I want this little tiny bit of life to be the best portion of my life, because I don't even know what's down there. When he says all of that down there, that's our primary focus. Eternal, the stuff that you can't see. That's where I'm giving you everything. That is where there's going to be no fear and no pain and no sadness. That's not here. And so we're like so worried about that. You know, if we go more figurative, which I kind of feel like it's figurative, and you know what, it's probably both. He says, for we know that if our earthly house, this tent, is destroyed, I think he's talking about us, our bodies. So if we are destroyed because of sharing the gospel, because of the way that which we love the Lord and show everybody the Lord. So say something happens where, you know, you're like Daniel and you're like, I can't do that thing because it goes against every single thing that the Lord asks me to do. Right? I'm not asking you to defy government. I'm just saying I can't do that thing. You know, maybe it's confess some different God. And you go, I cannot do that. And because you say you cannot do that, there is a very good chance you're going to lose your life. He says, those things are going to happen. But there is a house made not with human hands, but it's eternal. So if that happens, if your tent gets destroyed, there's something bigger and better in the eternal. He says, because in this we groan, earnestly desiring to be clothed with our habitation. Like, we want everything to be really good here. And remember, he's suffering. And so, like, if you're wondering, like, where is all this weird talk and this imagery coming from? He's suffering, right? Him and Timothy, suffering really big. And so he's at the point where he might lose his tent. He may have already lost his tent, and then he might lose his life, right? So, like, there are these things that are actually genuinely happening to him. And so he's saying, we're groaning. We want to be clothed with our habitation. It says, with our habitation, which is from heaven, if indeed being clothed, we shall not be found naked. So you're getting the clothing of the Lord. Now this very amazing imagery harkens back to Genesis, right? Where when they ate from the, I hope you can see that. Maybe you can, maybe you can't, but where they ate from the tree of good and evil. And so once they ate from the tree, they looked down and they were like, "Oh my gosh, we're naked." And so they recognized that there was shame there, that they were naked. And so since that time, and they clothed themselves, and then the Lord gave them clothing. But since that time, we've split, we've torn our relationship, and we've been in shame about being naked, aka being away from the Lord, right? Like having this torn relationship away from the Lord. And all we want to do is be clothed again. It is all we want. And he's saying, the Lord has promised you that. And the Lord is going to give you so much clothes. Like he's gonna overdress you. He's gonna give you so many clothes. He said, but we who are in this tent groan, being burdened, not because we want to be unclothed, but further clothed, that mortality might be swallowed up by life. Like we want it all. We don't want, because this is for those who are following Christ, right? We don't want to step away from the clothing. We're freezing. We want to get all of our clothes back on. We don't want to step away from that. We want to come in and be clothed all the more, right? We're groaning because it's a burden to not be clothed. We want to be with the Lord. Now, he who has prepared us for this very thing is God, who has also given us the Spirit as a guarantee. The Spirit that we have been given is our promise that we are with the Lord. So he gives you this gift. And again, I've mentioned before, things come with this gift. So if nothing has come with this gift, I feel like we need to be in prayer about that, right? Like, so if nothing has changed, and some of you, again, I know there's so many people who have been with the Lord since they've been like 4, 5, 6, 7. All I remember is being with the Lord. And like, how would my life be changed? I've been with him always. But like, there should be these, what we would call testimonies, these stories of like, I've encountered the Lord. I've heard, maybe not audibly, but maybe audibly, right, from the Lord. I've known the Lord. I know the Lord is working inside of me, right? And if that is in question, and it could be, and that's okay. Like if that's in question, you go, but I believe with my mouth, and I believe with my heart, and I said with my mouth that I confess with my mouth that I'm of the Lord. And maybe you did that, but as we've seen in Acts, I don't know if that necessarily means automatically the Spirit is indwelled in you, right? Because there might be something holding you back. And so if you're questioning, am I changed? Is anything different? Have I laid off the old man and put on the new man? That we need to be in prayer, asking the Lord to lay the Spirit on us, right? To know that there has been a change in our lives. There's been something that is different. Like for me, I again, I was an atheist until I was in my early 30s, and so my life very quickly changed in ways that like I learned how to be. I learned a lot of really great tips and techniques because that was what I understood, right? Like I couldn't get it all at once. I was definitely in the milk. And so I had an understanding, okay, the lamb is the Lord. Wow, this makes sense. And then I was like, okay, because of that, like I need to be a nicer person. Like I need to do some nicer things. And so I did. I actively did nicer things, but my heart wasn't changed toward the Lord. There were definitely some uh, personal temptations in my life that I fell into that then I was like, oh, I'm not changed. I just put on my own clothing and called it Christ's. And I wasn't changed. I wasn't a changed person. And so when all of those things happened, like the Lord reached out and lifted me back up again. And so I changed. But I still find myself, even as I was doing today, as I was doing some of my readings today, I found myself like looking at memes that were completely inappropriate. Definitely shouldn't have been on them. Was laughing at things that definitely inappropriate. And then I kind of was like, oh man, you can do one of two things. You can go, well, what's the big deal? Or you can go, wow, I am reading about the Lord and God's word. And I'm reading about like how Paul was suffering. And I'm sitting here killing time on memes that are pretty cruel. And so it makes you feel really stupid, right? Like I fell into the temptation because we can always fall back into temptation. We just don't want to stay there. I fell into the temptation of stupid social media. And again, when I say stupid social media, completely inappropriate, unchristian, ungod fearing social media. And so, I needed to be checked. And so that's what happened. So in the spirit was like, oof, that's, you should not be there. You should not be doing that. And so these are the things that we need to be in prayer about. If we're very easily excusing our own sins, or very easily saying none of that is a big deal, or not looking at our Bibles, not seeking God's wisdom, right? Then we need to be in prayer. We need to. I mean, that's big. That's like our biggest thing is we should be in prayer. So He's clothing you, and now He says, the spirit was your guarantee. So we are always confident. So you have your spirit as the guarantee. And so then you are confident knowing that while we are at home in the body, we are absent from the Lord. So while we are here, we are absent from the Lord because we walk by faith and not by sight. So we're knowing that it's coming. We believe that it is coming. We haven't seen that it is coming yet, but that spirit, that thing that is working inside of us, is essentially guaranteed that we understand the truth. And so then we are walking in the ways of the Lord. And this, I love this next section. He says, we walk by faith, but not by sight. We are confident, yes, well pleased, rather to be absent from the body and to be present with the Lord. So it is better to be there than it is to be here. So if you're like, I'm waiting for the next, like I have a really awesome concert coming up and I'm waiting for that, or I want to make sure my kids graduate, or I want my first grandbaby, or right, you're not really anxiously waiting for the Lord. And I understand, like, there are some amazing things in life. I just dropped my son off at college and like, oh, I miss him already, but I'm excited for a stage in his life. And I want more, right? Like I want him to get married. And I want to be able to see him get married. And I want him to have children and be able to babysit my grandbabies. But ultimately, this body is a stopping point. Like it's not where I end up. And being there is better no matter what happens here. Being there is better than being here. And he said, therefore, because of all this, we make it our aim, whether present or absent, to be well pleasing to him. Now, all of that stuff that he said all the way up to this point, he goes, because of all that, now we want to be well pleasing to him. So as I've mentioned, how do we know how to be a good servant? Do you trust all the stuff that he said in front of this? And then you go, and now I'm going to serve because I know who my God is. I know what my God wants, and I know how to serve him. By the way, here, serving is sharing the word of the Lord, right? Like it's going out and it's making a thing. It's living in a way that is clearly obvious, and there might be suffering along with it, right? So this is some of the things we need to do. We must all appear before the judgment seat of Christ. So we live a life that's pleasing. And then when our time comes, we are going to be in a judgment seat. Like we don't get all, it doesn't. So there's a judgment here, right? And it says they do, they don't, right? They follow Christ, they don't follow Christ, right? It's like one or the other. God has made that judgment. I can't make that judgment. God has made that judgment. But what you do here matters. And it matters because if you're going to be with the Lord, there's still a judgment seat. It's not like you get up there and he's like, bad egg, and you drop down, right? If you have faithfully followed him, there's still a judgment seat. There's still a way. So he says, for we must all appear before the judgment seat of Christ, that each one may receive the things done in the body according to what he's done, whether good or bad. So I've already mentioned, like, unfortunately, right now I fell into sin earlier today. There's going to be judgment for that. Well, you can't help it. I mean, we all sin. There's going to be judgment for it. God's not like, you're righteous now with Christ, so you've done nothing. Every single thing that you've done, you're perfect in every way, Mary Poppins. That's not the reality of the situation. Now, I'm not going to descend. I'm going to be with the Father. I'm going to be with Jesus. But there's a judgment that comes. And again, I don't know, and we might hear more of that in like the book of Revelation or whatever, but I can't even consider offhand what some of those judgments might look like, right? Like what he says that it would look like. But he does according to what you've done. So you can be like, Jesus, I love you. My whole life has changed. And then change absolutely nothing. You believe you're going to go be with the Lord, but there's a big judgment up there, right? And he's like, you say that you loved me and you did nothing to follow me. You forgave nobody. You loved nobody. You shared your stuff with no one. Everything was yours. Everything was about your own existence. So beware. Again, be in prayer about these things. Knowing, therefore, the terror of the Lord, big, huge word, we persuade men. So he's like, I know this stuff is coming. And I know that God is just. We want him to be just. We just don't want him to be just with us. We want him to be just with everybody else, but we want the Lord to be just. And I know the Lord is just. So I know when I turn away from him, I got to account for that. And yes, he's going to say, you may dwell in my house forever. But I still have to account for anything, any way that I turned away from him, any way I fell into the sins. And he said, because I know it's this scary, I don't want to say bad. Bad is the wrong thing, but he says terror. Like, again, he's using a big word. Like, I know God is big and he's mighty and he's just. And so we persuade men. So I need you to know, preaching to unsaved isn't my gift. I wish it was my gift. Actually, it's not my gift. And maybe I could work into that, and maybe eventually the Lord will open something up in me. But in general, preaching to the unsaved isn't my gift. So I don't go out into areas where nobody knows the Lord and go, hey, here's what we need to know about the Lord. But doing this, preaching and speaking to people who know the Lord but aren't really doing anything about it. We call that lukewarm Christianity a lot of times, which is spoken about in Revelation. He throws up people who are lukewarm. And so I know that God is big and just and good. And because he is good, he wants you to do the things that he has asked you to do. That is imperative in his dealings with people, right? He wants us to do those things. And so because of that, I feel the urge to speak, right? I want to share this with people. So one person goes, oh my gosh, I wasn't following. And now I realize that there's something bigger than I understood, right? Like that's my hope and my dream and my wish for everything. It's my prayer. So he said, we persuade men, but we are well known to God, and also trust are well known in your conscience. So like God knows what we're doing. We're well known by him, and you guys know us really well too. So moving into this last section, for we don't commend ourselves or present ourselves again to you, but give opportunity to boast on our behalf, that you may have an answer for those who boast in appearances and not in heart. So we're giving you this opportunity. You know us, you know what we've done. He said, for if we are beside ourselves, it's for God. So you know we're suffering. You know all this stuff is happening. Go out and tell everybody. Boast about it. They're suffering for the Lord. They are suffering to spread the gospel all over the world. Paul is traveling here, there, amongst people who hate him, amongst people who knew him and worshiped with him and then turned from him because then he started preaching Jesus. He's out there, he's doing it. He's doing the work. Boast in me. Tell people of what the Lord is doing. And he said, for the love of Christ compels us, because we judge thus, that if one died for all, then all died. And he died for all, that those who live should live no longer for themselves, but for him who died for them and rose again. So here we go. He's the one, he died for all. And I believe all means all. I think he died for every single person that was born and every single person that will be born. He died for everyone, right? He died for all. And then all of us die. So he died for every single person. And then because of that, every single person will die, right? We have a beginning, we have an end. But he said, he died for all, that those who live should not live for themselves, but for him. So everyone is on the path to death. But those who want to live, those who seek life eternal, will live for him. He's going to live for him who died and rose again. Because he was resurrected, we will be resurrected with him. This is the choice that we get to make. I want to say every day, but really we make it genuinely once and our heart turns toward him. Therefore, from now on, we regard no one according to the flesh. So from now on, We look at people spiritually. We don't judge according to the flesh because they've chosen to follow the way of the Lord. So we don't look at them according to their flesh. He said, even though we have known Christ according to the flesh, because he came alive, yet now we know him no longer. Therefore, if anyone is in Christ, he's a new creation. So we don't judge that person based on their outside sinful flesh. We're not like, ooh, they're awful because their sinful flesh does that. We base them on the Spirit. Do you or don't you follow the Lord? All things are of God who has reconciled, or he's reconciled us to God through Jesus. So we're now in harmony with them. So those who believe and follow Christ are in harmony with God through Christ. So same picture, right? Like I was talking about earlier with the fall. You fall, right? You're away from the Lord. He clothes you, and now you're back with him. You guys are living together again. So now we're all in harmony with each other. He said, and that given the ministry of reconciliation, that is that God was in Christ reconciling the world to himself, not imputing their trespasses, so none of their bad stuff is happened to them, and has committed us to the world of reconciliation. Now then, because of that, we are ambassadors for Christ. So again, because he gave himself for us, because we will live through him, because we are in harmony together, we, those of us that are in harmony with the Lord, are ambassadors. We go out and we say, I represent Christ. I represent the Lord of the universe. I am that representation. I know I'm here in your land and in your area. I know I'm here on earth, right? But I represent Christ on earth. That's the picture of who I'm supposed to be. Are you living in a way where you're an ambassador for Christ? Not like I wear my t-shirt or I got my key, my sticker right on the back of my car, my fish sticker. But are you living in such a way that someone would go, oh, they're so if I were to go to another country, I'm American. If I were to go to another country, they talk to me for 5 minutes. They're like, she is clearly American. She looks it. She talks like it. She dresses like it. She has the slang. She's representing the ideas. Do you look like that for Christ? Can someone say that person is absolutely representing Christ? No questions asked. I never even thought any different. That's how we're ending today, because this is how we become the righteousness, it says. So that's how I'm ending today. Again, I'm trying to ask a lot more in my videos to be in prayer. At the end of this video, take some time and be in prayer about what you have heard and how that reconciles in your life, right? How that's in harmony with your life. So if you were interested, I want you to hit that like button, share, and subscribe to the channel. And I will see you guys next time.